December 27th. A Word in Season to the Weary by Brother Bakht Singh. Praying always with all prayer and supplication in the Spirit, and watching thereunto with all perseverance. Ephesians chapter 6 verse 18. The enemy uses weapons of mockery and ridicule, as we notice in Nehemiah chapter 4 verse 1. These are very common weapons which the enemy uses to hinder the work of God. The devil often used the leading men for this purpose, hoping the mockery and ridicule from the leading men will prove more effective to harm God's work. Sanballat and Tobiah did not only hold important positions in Jerusalem, but they also had plenty of money. They were so proud of their position, land, authority and money that they did not fear ridiculing those who wanted to obey and serve God. We have seen the same type of things happening during the past years. Those who were in charge of schools, hospitals and other institutions and were having much money, were intoxicated with power in their high position. They began to ridicule those who wanted to testify in the waters of baptism, saying, "Who will bury you? Who will marry you? Who will give you jobs? Who will feed you?" And so on. The devil has used the same weapon through the ages against God's servants who wanted to obey and serve Him. But we thank and praise God for our strong and effective weapon of prayer, which is all powerful to defeat the enemy. If we want to obey God fully, we must also be prepared for facing all kinds of mockery and persecution. When Nehemiah and his helpers were attacked by the enemy, they began to pray. The more they were attacked by the enemy, the more did they pray. Similarly, we were not discouraged by all the attacks of the enemy, but we went on praying and seeking God's help. We have found by experience that the people who mocked us in the beginning are now begging us to come and help them, pray for them, or have gospel campaigns in their places. If we patiently bear all the mocking, in due time the Lord will help us and make us channels of blessing to those who earlier mocked us. Our duty is just to remain true to the heavenly vision and go on praying. In some cases, we find the enemy bringing contention and strife among the believers to hinder the work of God. In order to maintain oneness in the Spirit among ourselves, we should pray much. The enemy can raise bitter opposition against God's people and God's servants. It is only by travailing and persevering prayer that we can very certainly defeat the attack of the enemy.